too big to wed. The rancher's daughter was to be sold until one cowboy claimed her. The ranch had always been a place of hard work and quiet pride. The sun rose early over the wide fields, and the land was full of long, dusty trails and tall grass that swayed in the wind. The rancher's daughter grew up here, learning how to do things most girls in town never learned. She could rope a calf, ride a horse through rough terrain, and lift heavy sacks of feed without thinking twice. She did not see herself as different. She only saw the work that needed to be done. She was strong, not in a way people admired, but in a way they found strange. Her arms were muscular and her hands were rough from years of hard labor. Her face was sun-tanned and serious, and her clothes were usually covered in dust. When she walked through town, she did not walk like a girl who wanted attention. She walked like someone who had a job to do. The people in town had a habit of judging what they did not understand. They were used to seeing girls dressed neatly, walking with soft steps, and talking softly. They were used to seeing boys work the ranch and girls stay inside the house. But the rancher's daughter did not fit into their idea of what a girl should be. She did not dress in pretty clothes, and she did not act gentle. She did not spend her days sewing or cooking. She spent her days working alongside the men. Some people called her strong. Others called her too big. They used the word big like it was an insult. They said she was too tall, too broad, too rough. They said no man would want her. They said she was not feminine enough. They said she would never be married. The girl heard these things, but she did not know what to do with them. She was not a person who cared much about what people thought. She was too busy making sure the ranch survived. She was too busy helping her father feed the animals, fix the fences, and keep the land from falling apart. She was too busy trying to keep the ranch alive. Her father had once been proud. He had built the ranch from nothing. He had worked hard for years, and the ranch had grown into something respectable. People in town used to admire him. They used to say he was a good man, a strong man, a man who could do anything. But times had changed. The weather had been cruel for several years. Drought had dried up the water sources. The grass had turned brown and brittle. The cattle had grown thin. The money that once came easily was now scarce. The rancher worked harder than ever, but the land was not giving back what it used to. Every month he felt the pressure of bills and debts. Every month he worried that the ranch would be taken away. He did not show his worry in front of his daughter. He tried to act strong, like he always had. But the worry was there. It lived inside him like a heavy stone. He tried to hide it, but the girl could see it in his eyes. She could see it in the way he walked slowly, as if each step was a struggle. One evening, after a long day of work, the father sat on the porch while his daughter cleaned the kitchen. The air was cool, and the sky was painted with soft colors. The rancher looked out over the fields and sighed. He did not say anything at first. The girl waited, knowing her father would speak when he was ready. Finally, he said, "We may not make it through the year." The girl stopped what she was doing. She looked at her father and felt a sudden fear. "What do you mean?" she asked. He did not answer right away. He looked away, as if he was ashamed. Then he said, "The bank is coming soon. They may take the land." The girl felt her heart tighten. She had known things were bad, but she had not expected the worst. She had always believed the ranch would survive because her father had survived before. But this time, the ranch felt like it was slipping through their fingers. She sat down beside him. She did not know what to say. She wanted to promise him that everything would be fine. But she did not believe it. She had seen too much. She had seen the land dry up. She had seen the cattle die. She had seen her father grow weaker with every passing day. She spoke softly. "What can we do?" Her father looked at her, and she saw the pain in his eyes. He was a man who had always been proud. He was a man who believed he could solve any problem with hard work. But this problem was bigger than work. This problem was about money, and money had a way of making even the strongest men feel powerless. "We may have to make a deal," he said. The girl felt a chill run through her body. She had heard of deals before. She had heard of families who lost their land because of a bad deal. She had heard of people who had to leave their homes because they could not pay what they owed. She had heard of marriages arranged for money. She had heard of girls being promised to men in exchange for help. She looked at her father. What kind of deal? Her father hesitated. He seemed to be searching for the right words. He looked down at his hands as if he was ashamed. Finally, he said, "There is a man in town. He owns land and has money. He has offered to help us. He said he would pay off our debts if we agree to something." The girl's stomach tightened. She felt her throat grow dry. What is this something? Her father took a deep breath. He said, "He wants you." The girl stared at him, unable to speak. She felt her mind go blank. The words seemed impossible. She had always thought of her father as a man who would protect her no matter what. She had always believed he would never allow anyone to hurt her. But now she was hearing a plan that sounded like betrayal. She whispered, "He wants me to marry him." Her father shook his head. "Not exactly. He wants you to be his wife, in a way. He wants you to live on his land. He wants to take control of your life." The girl felt her chest tighten. She could not believe what she was hearing. She felt like she was falling into a deep hole. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. She wanted to do something, anything to stop this. But she was also afraid. She was afraid of what would happen if she refused. She was afraid of what would happen to the ranch. She was afraid of what would happen to her father. She knew that if she said no, the ranch might be lost. She knew that if she said no, her father might lose everything he had worked for. She looked at her father and saw the pain in his eyes. She saw the way he looked like a man who had no other choice. She saw the fear he was hiding behind his strong face. She felt her heart break for him. She tried to stay calm. She asked, "Is there no other way?" Her father shook his head. "I have tried everything. I have borrowed from neighbors. I have sold what I could. There is nothing left. This man is offering the only solution." The girl felt a hot anger rise inside her. She wanted to shout at her father for even thinking about it. She wanted to tell him he was wrong, that he was making a terrible mistake. She wanted to tell him that she would rather lose the ranch than lose herself. But she also knew her father was desperate. She knew he was not thinking clearly. She knew he was tired and scared. She knew he was not a bad man. He was just a man who had reached the end of his strength. The girl stood up slowly. She walked to the window and looked out at the land. The fields were quiet. The animals were calm. The ranch was still beautiful in its own way. She had grown up here. She had learned to love this place. She did not want to lose it. But she also did not want to lose herself. She turned back to her father. She said, "If you do this, I will not be a wife. I will be a tool, a payment." Her father looked at her, and for a moment, he seemed to regret what he had said. He said, I know. It is not fair." The girl took a deep breath. She looked at her father with a calm face, but her eyes were filled with determination. "Then we must find another way," she said. Her father looked at her and she saw a flicker of hope. He said, "What do you suggest?" The girl did not know. She only knew she could not accept this. She could not allow herself to be traded like property. She could not allow her father to make a decision that would destroy her life. She said, "Give me time. Let me think. Let me talk to people." Her father nodded slowly. He looked relieved that she was not agreeing, but also worried that she might not have a solution. He said, "You have time, but not much. A bank will come soon." The girl nodded. She felt a heavy weight on her shoulders, but she also felt something else. She felt the first spark of courage. She felt the beginning of a plan. She knew the road ahead would be difficult. She knew she would face ridicule, anger, and fear. She knew she would have to fight for her life and her dignity. But she also knew she would not give up. That night she lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. She thought about the ranch, the land, her father, and the people who judged her. She thought about how her strength had always been a source of pride for her, but to others, it was a reason to reject her. She wondered if anyone would ever see her as a person, not as a problem. She did not know the answer, but she knew she would not accept being sold. She would not accept being treated like a tool. She would fight. She would survive. She would prove her worth, not through marriage, but through her own choices. And in the quiet darkness of the ranch house, she made a promise to herself. She would not let anyone decide her future. The next morning, the rancher's daughter woke up before the sun. The air was cool and quiet, and the world seemed to be holding its breath. She did not feel rested. Her mind was heavy with the thought of what her father had said the night before. The idea of being treated like a payment was still new and shocking. It did not feel real. She went outside and walked to the barn. The animals were already awake, waiting for their food. The girl did not talk much as she worked. She moved with a kind of focused calm, like someone who had decided to do what was necessary no matter what. She fed the horses and the cows, and she checked the fences. She did her work as if she was trying to prove something, not to others, but to herself. She was thinking about the deal her father had mentioned. She could not believe it was even possible. She had always believed that marriage was a choice. She had always believed that people married because they loved each other, or at least because they respected each other. She had never imagined a man could buy a person like a piece of land. She had heard of arranged marriages, but those were always between families of equal status. This was different. This was a man using his money to take what he wanted. She felt sick thinking about it. She went into town later that morning. She wanted to talk to someone, but she did not know who. She knew the town people could be cruel, but she also knew that someone might understand. She walked slowly, keeping her head down. She did not want to be noticed, but she also wanted to be heard. The town was small and quiet. The buildings were simple, and the streets were dusty. People were going about their day, talking quietly and doing their work. Some of them looked at her with curiosity. Some looked at her with judgment. She could feel their eyes on her, but she kept walking. She went to the general store, hoping to find someone who might listen. The store owner, an older man with kind eyes, greeted her. He knew her family. He knew how hard they had worked. He also knew how hard times had been. "Good morning," he said. "You look tired." She forced a small smile. "I am. It's been a long week." He nodded. Times are hard for everyone. She looked around the store, then leaned in slightly. "Have you heard about the offer from Mr. Harlan?" The store owner's face changed. He looked worried. He lowered his voice. Yes, I heard. The girl felt her heart beat faster. What do people say? He hesitated. People say he is a good man. They say he is generous. They say he wants to help. The girl felt her hands tighten around the edge of the counter. They say he wants to buy me. The store owner looked at her with sympathy. They don't say it like that. They say he wants to marry you. They say it will be good for your family. She shook her head. It is not good. It is wrong. The store owner sighed. I know, but your father is in a difficult place. He is not thinking clearly. The girl felt anger rise inside her again. That is not an excuse. The store owner looked at her and said softly, No, it is not. The girl thanked him and left the store. She felt even more alone. She had hoped someone would offer a solution, but all she heard was that her father was wrong and the man was powerful. It made her feel trapped. She walked down the street trying to think. She needed a plan. She needed a way to protect herself and her father. She needed a way to save the ranch without losing her life. She saw a group of men outside the saloon. They were talking and laughing. When they saw her, they stopped laughing and stared. One of them made a comment about her size, and the others snickered. The girl felt a familiar sting in her heart. She had heard these kinds of comments all her life. She had learned to ignore them, but now they felt more painful because her future was on the line. She kept walking, trying not to show how much it hurt. She knew she could not let the town see her weakness. She knew she had to stay strong. As she walked, she saw a man she had never seen before. He was standing near the edge of town, by the stables. He looked different from the others. He did not laugh loudly or try to get attention. He looked calm and serious. He wore a simple hat and boots, and he carried himself with quiet confidence. The girl felt something strange. She felt like he was looking at her, not with judgment, but with interest. She did not know why, but she felt a little nervous. The man approached her slowly. "You're the rancher's daughter," he said. She nodded. "Yes." He looked at her carefully. "You work hard." She didn't know what to say. She was not used to people saying things like that without making fun of her. "Thank you," she said quietly. He looked away for a moment, then back at her. "I'm new in town. My name is Luke." The girl felt a small surprise. She had never heard of him. I'm not sure I've seen you before." Luke nodded. "I'm just passing through. I heard about your family. I heard you might be in trouble." The girl's heart raced. "How did you hear that?" Luke shrugged slightly. "People talk. I heard a few things. I didn't believe it at first." The girl looked at him, wondering what he meant. "You didn't believe what?" Luke's face turned serious. "I didn't believe a man would think he could buy a woman." The girl felt her eyes widen. She looked at him, surprised that someone would say it out loud. She had never heard anyone speak like that. Most people avoided the truth or pretended it was normal, but Luke seemed to be different. She asked, "Do you think it's wrong?" Luke nodded. "Yes, it's wrong." The girl felt a wave of relief. She had not expected anyone to agree with her. She had expected to be alone. But here was a stranger who seemed to understand. She said, "My father is thinking about it. He says it is the only way." Luke frowned. "It is not the only way. There is always another way." The girl looked at him, unsure. "What do you mean?" Luke looked at her with calm eyes. "You are strong. You are capable. You can work. You can fight for your life. You can find another solution. The girl felt a mix of hope and doubt. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe there was a way out, but she had seen too much. She had seen her father struggle for years. She had seen how quickly money could disappear. She did not want to get her hopes up. She asked, "What do you know about my father's situation?" Luke looked down, then back up. "I know he is proud. I know he has worked hard. I know he is afraid. And I know he is not thinking clearly because of that fear." The girl stared at him. She felt like he had seen her father inside her. She felt like he understood what her father was going through. She felt like he understood the pain of being desperate. She asked, "Why are you telling me this?" Luke hesitated. Then he said, "Because I have seen what happens when people lose their dignity. I have seen families fall apart. I have seen people make choices they regret. And I don't want that to happen to you." The girl looked at him. She felt a strange trust growing inside her. She did not know why she trusted him, but she did. She said, "You are not from here. Why do you care?" Luke smiled slightly. "Because I have lived a hard life too. I know what it feels like to be judged. I know what it feels like to be told you are not good enough. I know what it feels like to be treated like you are a problem." The girl felt a lump in her throat. She did not want to cry, but her emotions were too strong. She swallowed and tried to keep her face calm. She said, "I don't want to be a problem. I don't want to be used." Luke nodded. "You shouldn't be. And you won't be, if you don't let them." The girl felt a surge of determination. She felt the first real spark of hope. She realized she did not have to accept her father's plan. She realized she could fight for herself. She asked Luke, "Can you help me?" Luke looked at her carefully. He seemed to think for a moment. Then he said, "I can try, but you need to be honest with me. What do you want?" The girl took a deep breath. She looked at the town, the people, and the land. She thought of her father and the ranch and the future. She thought of how hard she had worked her whole life and how little she had been valued. She said, "I want to keep the ranch. I want my father to be safe, and I want to keep my life. I want to choose my own future." Luke nodded. "Then we will find a way." The girl felt a new sense of strength. She knew the road ahead would be hard, but she was not alone anymore. She had someone who believed in her. She had someone who saw her as a person, not a problem. As she walked back to the ranch that evening, she felt a new feeling inside her. She felt like she was not just a daughter, but a person with a future. She felt like she had a chance to change her life. She did not know what would happen next. She did not know if Luke would be able to help. She did not know if her father would listen, but she knew one thing. She was no longer willing to accept being sold. She was ready to fight for her life, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like she might win. The next few days were full of work, but the rancher's daughter felt a new energy inside her. It was not the kind of energy that came from rest or food. It was the kind that came from hope. She had never felt hope like this before. She had always believed that her life was something she had to accept, not something she could change. She woke early and worked late, but her mind was not only on the work anymore. She kept thinking about the man named Luke. She kept thinking about his words. He had said she was strong and capable. He had said there was always another way. He had made her believe that she might not be trapped. She wanted to believe him, but she also knew that words were not enough. She needed proof. She needed to see a plan. a real solution. She needed something that would show her father that he did not have to choose the wrong path. One evening, after a long day of work, she walked to the edge of the property. The sun was low in the sky and the air was warm. She stood there, watching the land and thinking about the future. She did not notice Luke at first. He walked up quietly, like someone who did not want to startle her. "Thinking again?" he asked softly. She turned and smiled slightly. "Always."
Luke nodded.
"You have a good mind. You are not just strong. You are smart." The girl felt a small pride. She had always been told she was strong, but no one had ever told her she was smart. People often assumed that because she worked with her hands, she could not think, but she knew that was not true. She said, "I need a plan." Luke looked at her. "I have been thinking about it. I have an idea." The girl's eyes widened. "What is it?" Luke took a deep breath. "Your father is proud. He does not like to ask for help, but he is also respected in town. If he can show that he is still in control, he may be able to negotiate better terms. He may be able to get time." The girl frowned. "Time for what?" Luke looked at her seriously. "Time to find another solution. Time to sell some assets. Time to borrow money. Time to get the ranch back on track." The girl thought for a moment. "But the bank is coming soon?" Luke nodded. "Yes, but if your father can show he is making an effort, they may give him more time. They may not take the land right away." The girl felt a small hope. "Do you think that will work?" Luke shrugged. "It might. It is not guaranteed. But it is better than giving yourself away." The girl nodded. She felt her heart beat faster. She knew this was the first real plan she had heard. She knew it was not perfect, but it was a start. She asked, "What do I do?" Luke looked at her. "You need to talk to your father. You need to convince him to act. You need to show him that there is a way." The girl sighed. "He is stubborn." Luke smiled slightly. "Yes, he is, but he is also a man who respects strength. If he sees that you are not afraid, he may listen." The girl nodded. She knew Luke was right. Her father respected her work and her strength. He had always seen her as someone who could handle anything, but he had never seen her as someone who could challenge him. She decided to try. She went inside the house and found her father sitting at the table looking tired and worried. The room was quiet. The only sound was the wind outside. She sat down across from him. She did not speak at first. She wanted to see his face, to see if he was still thinking about the deal. Finally, she said, "I have been thinking." Her father looked up. "About what?" She took a deep breath. "About the deal." Her father's face tightened. He looked away. "You do not have to talk about it." She leaned forward. "I do. I want to talk about it." Her father sighed. "You cannot stop it. It is the only option." She shook her head. "No, it is not the only option. I've been talking to someone. He has an idea." Her father frowned. "Who?" She said. "A man named Luke. He is new in town." Her father's eyes narrowed. He did not like the idea of strangers. He did not like the idea of anyone interfering. He said, "What does he know?" The girl felt a flash of anger. She said, "He knows that I am not a thing to be traded. He knows that we can find another way." Her father looked at her, and for the first time, she saw fear in his eyes. He looked like a man who was losing control. He said, You do not understand. We have no money. We have no options. The girl spoke calmly. We have the ranch. We have the animals. We have the land. We have work. We can sell some things. We can borrow. We can do something. Her father shook his head. We have already sold what we could. There is nothing left. The girl felt her heart sink. She did not want to give up. She did not want to accept defeat. She said, "Then we will work harder." Her father looked at her with a tired expression. "You cannot work harder than you already do." She stood up. She felt the anger inside her grow, but she tried to keep it controlled. She said, "I will not be sold. I will not be used. I will not be taken from this ranch." Her father looked at her, and for a moment he looked like a man who was ashamed. He said, "I am doing this to save you." The girl felt a shock. "To save me?" Her father nodded. "I know what people say. I know they talk about you. I know they think you are too strong, too big, too rough. They say no man will want you. I am trying to save you from a life of loneliness." The girl stared at him. She felt a mix of anger and sadness. She did not know what to say. She had never thought of her father's plan as a way to protect her. She had only thought of it as a way to trade her like an object. She said softly, "I do not want to be saved like that." Her father looked down. He seemed to be struggling with his own thoughts. He said, "I do not know what else to do." The girl walked to the window. She looked out at the land. She thought about how much her father loved this ranch. She thought about how hard he had worked. She thought about how scared he must be. She turned back to him. She said, "Give me time. Let me try." "Ah!" Her father looked up. He seemed surprised. He said, "You think you can fix this?" She nodded. "I think I can try." Her father sighed. He looked at her for a long moment. Finally, he said, "Okay, you have 1 week. 1 week to come up with something." The girl felt relief. She felt the weight on her shoulders lighten, even if only a little. She knew she had time, but she also knew time was still limited. She thanked her father and left the house. She felt a strange mix of emotions. She was grateful, but she was also worried. She knew her father had given her a chance, but he had also made it clear that if she failed, the deal would happen. She walked back outside and saw Luke waiting near the fence. He looked at her with calm eyes. "How did it go?" The girl smiled slightly. "It gave me 1 week." Luke nodded. "That is good." The girl looked at him. "But I need a real plan. I need something that will work." Luke nodded. "Yes, and I have been thinking." He paused, then said, "Your ranch is not the only thing you have. You have your reputation. You have your strength. You have your skills. You can work for others. You can earn money. You can prove you are worth more than a deal." The girl listened carefully. She felt her mind start to work. She thought about the skills she had. She thought about how she could help others. She thought about the town and its people. She asked, "What do you suggest?" Luke looked at her with a small smile. "I suggest you show the town what you can do. I suggest you find work outside the ranch. I suggest you show your father and the bank that you are not a burden. You are a solution." The girl felt a spark of hope. She knew it would not be easy. She knew people would judge her. She knew some would laugh. But she also knew that if she did nothing, she would lose everything. She looked at Luke. "I will do it." Luke nodded. "Then we begin tomorrow." The girl felt a new sense of purpose. She went back to the ranch. and prepared herself for the week ahead. She knew the road would be difficult, but she was ready. She had a plan, she had hope, and she had someone who believed in her. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she was not alone. The next morning, the rancher's daughter woke up with a clear goal. She had promised herself that she would do something to save the ranch, and she was determined to keep that promise. She did not know exactly what would happen, but she knew she had to try. She began the day by checking the animals, feeding them, and making sure everything was in order. Her movements were quick and confident, as if she was a person who knew exactly what she was doing. She did not stop to think about how tired she was. She did not stop to think about how hard the work was. She only focused on what needed to be done. After the morning chores, she walked into town. She felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. She knew people would notice her, she knew people would talk, but she also knew she had to face them. She had to show them she was not weak. She had to show them she was not someone to be used. She went to the local workshop where a man named Mr. Girana Porter worked. He was known for fixing tools and building things. He was a practical man, and he respected hard work. The girl had seen him before, but she had never spoken to him much. She had always been too busy with the ranch. She approached him and said, "Mr. Peruse, Porter, can you help me?" Mr. Porter looked at her, surprised. "What do you need?" She took a deep breath. "I need work. I need to earn money." Mr. Porter looked her up and down. He saw the strength in her arms, the dust on her clothes, and the serious look in her eyes. He nodded slowly. "I might have something." He led her to a small corner of his workshop. There was a pile of old wood and metal. He said, "I have a few things that need fixing. I also have a fence project that needs help. If you can do the work, I will pay you." The girl felt a small hope. She nodded. "I can do it." Mr. Porter looked at her carefully.
"You are sure?" She nodded again. "Yes."
"I can do it." He smiled slightly. "All right. You start today." The girl worked with Mr. Gerwin Porter for the rest of the day. She lifted heavy boards, carried tools, and helped build a new fence. She worked faster than some of the men. She did not complain. She focused on the task. She felt a sense of pride. For the first time, she was doing work that was not just for her family. She was doing work that had value to others. As the day ended, Mr. Porter handed her a small bag of coins. It was not a lot, but it was something. The girl felt her heart lift. She had earned her first money outside the ranch. She felt like she had taken the first step toward saving her home. She thanked Mr. Porter and walked out of the workshop. The sun was setting, and the sky was a beautiful mix of orange and pink. The girl felt tired, but she also felt alive. She had done something that mattered. She walked toward the saloon, not because she wanted to drink, but because she wanted to talk to people. She wanted to show them she was capable. She wanted to show them she was not a problem. When she arrived, she saw a group of men standing outside. They looked at her and laughed. One of them said, "Look at her. She's trying to be a man." The girl felt her cheeks burn. She wanted to respond, but she did not. She knew that reacting would only make things worse. She had learned that the hard way. Instead, she walked past them with her head held high. She kept her face calm, even though inside she felt hurt. She walked into the saloon and sat down at a table. She ordered a drink, even though she did not want it. She wanted to be seen as someone who belonged. She wanted to show that she was not afraid. As she sat there, she noticed Luke sitting in the corner. He looked up and nodded at her. She felt a sense of comfort. She knew he was there, watching, supporting her. She felt grateful. Luke walked over to her table. "How was your first day?" he asked. The girl smiled slightly. "It was hard, but I did it." Luke nodded. "That is good." The girl looked at him. "Do you think it will be enough?" Luke paused. He looked thoughtful. "It is a start. You cannot save a ranch in one day. But you can begin." The girl sighed. "My father is worried. He says the bank will not wait." Luke nodded. "They might not, but if your father can show he is working and paying what he can, they may give him more time. They may not take the land right away." The girl looked down at her hands. She felt a mix of hope and fear. She said, "I want to tell my father that I am working. I want him to know I am trying." Luke smiled. "He will see. He will feel it." The girl looked up. "But I also want to do something more. I want to show the town that I am not just strong. I am useful. I am valuable. Luke nodded. "Then you need to do more work. You need to build a reputation." The girl thought about it. She thought about what she could do. She thought about how she could use her skills to help others. She thought about how she could prove her worth. She said, "I want to help with the harvest. I want to work with the farmers. I want to help them bring in their crops." Luke looked surprised. "That is a big job." The girl nodded. "I know, but I can do it." Luke smiled. "Then let's do it." The next morning, the girl woke up early again. She went to the fields where the farmers were working. She introduced herself and offered her help. Some of them laughed. Some of them looked skeptical. But one farmer, a kind man named Mr. Allen, agreed to let her help. Mr. Allen had a large field of crops that needed harvesting. He was short on workers and the weather was turning. He needed help, and he was willing to accept it from anyone who could do the work. The girl worked with Mr. Allen for several days. She worked from sunrise to sunset, cutting the crops, bundling them, and loading them onto carts. She worked faster than many of the men. She did not stop. She did not complain. She did not let anyone see her tiredness. As the days passed, people began to notice. They began to see her as a hard worker, not as a strange girl. They began to see her as someone who could help. Some people still talked about her size, but their words changed. Instead of mocking her, they started to respect her. They started to say she works hard. They started to say she is strong. They started to say she is useful. The girl felt a small pride. She felt like she was finally being seen. One afternoon, as she was working in the field, she saw her father walking toward her. He looked tired, but he also looked different. He looked like a man who was beginning to believe again. He approached her and said, "I heard you are working with the farmers." The girl nodded. Yes. Her father looked at her hands. He saw the calluses and the dirt. He saw the proof of her work. He said, "You are doing a good job." The girl felt a lump in her throat. She had never heard her father praise her like that. She had always heard him say she was strong, but never that she was doing a good job. She felt like she was finally being recognized. She said, "I am trying to save the ranch." Her father nodded. "I know. I see it." The girl looked at him. "Do you think we can make it?" Her father sighed. He looked out at the fields. He said, "I do not know, but I am proud of you." The girl felt tears welling in her eyes. She quickly wiped them away. She did not want her father to see her cry. She did not want to appear weak. She said, "Thank you." Her father nodded. He looked at her with a serious face. He said, "I need to talk to you about something." The girl felt her heart beat faster. She wondered if he was going back to the deal. She hoped he was not. He said, "I spoke to the bank. They said they will give us more time if we can show progress." The girl felt a wave of relief. She said, "So the deal is not happening?" Her father shook his head. "Not yet. But we still need money. We still need to pay what we can." The girl nodded. "I know." Her father looked at her. He said, "You have done more in these few days than I expected. You have made people see you differently. You have made them respect you." The girl felt a warm feeling inside her. She knew she had not only helped her family, but she had also changed the way people saw her. She felt proud. She said, "I will keep working. I will keep helping. I will not give up." He looked relieved. He said, "Then we will get through this." The girl felt a new hope. She knew the road ahead would still be hard, but she also knew she was not alone. She had her father's support. She had Luke's support. She had the town's respect. And she knew that no matter what happened, she would not be sold. She would fight for her life, her dignity, and her future. The days moved quickly after the harvest work began. The rancher's daughter continued to help the farmers, and she kept earning money. She also continued to work on the ranch. She did not stop. She did not rest. She was tired, but she felt more alive than ever. She felt like she was finally doing something that mattered. The town began to change the way they saw her. People who had once laughed at her now greeted her with respect. They no longer spoke about her size as something strange. Instead, they spoke about her strength as a gift. They spoke about her work as something valuable. Some people even started to ask her for help with their own tasks. They asked her to fix fences, help with animals, or assist with heavy work. She began to feel like she belonged. Her father watched all of this from the porch. He saw the way people began to treat his daughter differently. He saw the way her confidence grew. He also saw the way she worked harder than anyone else. He felt a deep pride, but he also felt a deep regret. He regretted the fact that he had ever considered giving her away. He regretted the fear that had driven him to that decision. One evening, the father called his daughter inside. The house was quiet. The only sound was the wind outside. He sat down at the table and looked at her. He seemed serious. "I want to talk to you," he said. "I want to have talked to you." The girl sat down, feeling a small worry. She wondered if he was going to tell her something bad. She waited quietly. Her father began, "I have been thinking about what you said. I have been thinking about the deal." The girl nodded. She did not say anything. She wanted to hear what he had to say. He continued, "I was wrong." The girl felt a rush of emotion. She looked at him, surprised. She had not expected him to say that. She had not expected him to admit it. Her father sighed. "I was scared. I was afraid of losing everything. I thought I was protecting you, but I see now that I was wrong. I see that I was thinking of you as a problem, not as a person." The girl felt tears in her eyes. She tried to hold them back, but she could not. She felt a deep relief. She felt like a heavy weight had been lifted from her. She said softly, "Thank you." Her father nodded. "I want to make it right." The girl looked at him. "How?" Her father thought for a moment. "We will work together. We will pay what we can. We will sell what we can. We will not give up. And we will not let anyone treat you like property." The girl felt her heart warm. She smiled. She felt a new sense of hope. She felt like her father was finally seeing her the way she deserved to be seen. She said, "I will work with you. We will save the ranch." Her father nodded. Yes, we will. After that night, the father and daughter worked harder than ever. They woke early, worked all day, and planned every step carefully. They made a list of what could be sold. They looked at their animals and decided which ones they could sell without harming the ranch. They talked to neighbors and asked for help. They even borrowed small amounts from people who trusted them. It was not easy, it was not quick, but they kept going. They did not stop. They knew the ranch was worth saving. They knew their family was worth saving. Luke continued to help too. He visited the ranch often, bringing supplies and helping with work. He did not ask for anything in return. He simply wanted to support the girl and her family. He stayed quiet most of the time, but his presence gave the girl strength. One day, the girl asked him, "Why are you helping us?" Luke looked at her and smiled. "Because I believe in you. Because I believe you deserve better. Because I have seen too many people lose their lives to fear." The girl nodded. She felt grateful. She also felt something else. She felt a connection growing between them. She did not know what it meant yet, but she felt safe when he was around. She felt like she could trust him. As the weeks passed, the bank continued to watch the ranch. The bank wanted to see progress. They wanted to see that the family was trying. The father and daughter worked hard to show that. They paid what they could, even if it was small. They showed receipts, they showed work, they showed effort. The bank decided to give them more time. They did not take the land. They did not force the deal. The father felt a relief so strong that he almost cried. He looked at his daughter and said, "We did it." The girl smiled. She felt proud. She felt like she had proven something not only to her father and the town, but also to herself. She had proven that she was not a problem. She was a solution. The ranch began to improve slowly. The weather started to change. The grass grew greener. The animals grew stronger. The father was able to breathe a little easier. He began to smile more. He began to talk more. He began to act like the man he used to be. The girl continued to work with the farmers, helping them when needed. She continued to earn money and build her reputation. She continued to show the town that she was valuable. One day, a local festival was held in town. People gathered to celebrate the harvest and the end of the hard season. There were food stalls, music, and games. The girl's father encouraged her to go. He wanted her to feel like she belonged. The girl was nervous at first. She was not used to being the center of attention, but she went anyway. She walked into the festival and saw the people she had worked with. They smiled at her. They greeted her. They treated her like a person. As she walked through the crowd, she saw Luke standing near a booth. He looked at her and smiled. He walked toward her. "You look happy?" he said. The girl nodded. "I am. The ranch is doing better." Luke's eyes softened. "I am glad." The girl looked at him. She felt her heart beat faster. She wanted to say something, but she did not know how. She had never felt this way before. She had never felt like someone cared about her. Not just as a worker, but as a person. Luke reached out and gently touched her hand. "You did it," he said softly. "You saved your home." The girl looked at him. Bow. She felt tears in her eyes again, but this time they were tears of happiness. She smiled. "I did, but I could not have done it alone." Luke nodded. "You never were alone." The girl looked at him and felt a deep sense of gratitude. She realized that the man who had entered her life had not only helped her save the ranch, but he had also helped her find her voice. He had helped her believe in herself. As the festival continued, the girl felt a new sense of peace. She felt like her life was finally moving in a direction she chose. She felt like she had earned her place in the world. She felt like she was not defined by her size or by what others said about her. She was defined by her choices. She was defined by her strength. She was defined by her courage. And as she looked out at the crowd, she felt hopeful for the future. She knew there would still be challenges. She knew the land could be difficult again. She knew life would not always be easy. But she also knew that she had the power to face those challenges. She knew she had the strength to keep going. She knew she had the courage to stand up for herself. And she knew that she would never let anyone treat her like she was something to be sold. She would always be the one who chose her path.